Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. We're going to be doing another weekly meta-analysis looking at the data and the implications of the class changes that came in this week. I've obviously been playing a lot. I recently made a tier list if you want to check that out, but we're going to look at what the actual numbers are. What is the play rate of these specializations, and what is the likelihood that you're going to see success on it? Is it justified in your own complaints when playing your specialization, or is it just a skill issue? We will find out on this. We're going to be looking through multiple rating thresholds. We have 1800 plus, 2100 plus, 2400 plus, 2700 plus, and 2800 plus to see which specializations are actually dominating at the top. And we're going to be looking at all regions. So we're combining all regions together. When we look at melee DPS first off at 1800 plus, we can obviously see that Ret Paladin still is trending significantly higher, doubling that of Arms Warrior, which honestly I'm surprised to see Arms Warrior so high. But I think what we'll see with Warrior is that it will start scaling down quite rapidly as we start going up in rating overall. I think at low rating, Colossus, Demolish, one-shots, these types of things are kind of like oppressive to players that aren't aware of them. It makes a lot of sense. Demon Hunter is holding a strong position. Unholy DK still holds a very strong position. Fury Warrior as well. So these are like specializations to try and push for 1800 rating, like an elite set. What's the most likelihood that you would be able to get an elite set on them, right? Rets looks very high. Arms Warrior is decent. Holy DK Havoc are decent. Fury is even decent, although my experience on Fury just getting 2400 today has been very difficult. Also, what's funny about Arms Warrior is I think you're in the top 1% if you're above 2200. I don't know how difficult you know it is to get to the top 1% of something in life. It's very hard. So, getting an elite set, maybe it's pretty easy, but after that it gets very hard. Assassination Rogues are doing really well. Their builds have been changing, though. I've seen like a Deathstalker Deathmarkless build where you don't play Deathmark anymore. The coin build is still really fun and cheesy. It's what I want to try out, honestly. But I think I'm going to do Affliction Warlock next out of all the specializations. Typically on the channel, I'll play live stream, and I play the 2400 on a spec and then switch. I think Disc Priest and Aflock, like Disc Priest is really good right now, honestly, like really good. Survival Hunter is still doing solidly, considering it's typically a less popular spec, given that it got nerfed substantially. I think it's still holding strong. Windwalker holds decently. Frost DK holds decently. Enhance is starting to fall off a bit, but I kind of think Enhance might be making a comeback. I really wish they would just take Hallowed Ground from Red and give it to Enhance, so that like you can get some mobility, because you actually are melee for the most part. So I would really like to see that mechanic shifted towards Enhance and Shaman. Subtlety Rogue, you're going to be struggling. Feral Druid, I think, is good, but at low ratings, it's very high amount of keybinds and a lot more effort for results. So like if you're just trying to get 1800, it's going to be very hard as Feral. It's probably better to do it as Boomkin right now if you're a Druid going for an elite set. And then Outlaw Rogue is just one of the most complicated specs in the game, and it's not in a hugely powerful position, although in threes I do think it is. If you play with a very good Arcane Mage, maybe even a Boomkin, I think you can definitely shine as an Outlaw Rogue. But when it comes to Shuffle, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. As we jump up the ladder, so this is like looking at elite weapons now, Ret still is trending as the best one if you want to go for an elite weapon. But Unholy DK starts to take the number 2 spot. Arms Warrior starts to slip a bit, and Survival starts to climb up. And I think we'll notice like the higher skill cap specs start to climb, and then the medium and the lower skill cap specs start to fall as we move through this, because the classes are actually pretty solidly balanced outside of maybe Warrior or Rogue. Demon Hunter still in a great spot. Same spot pretty much for every class as we move to 2100, although Feral, like I said, Feral is going to start moving up. Warrior's going to start moving down is likely the trend that I'm anticipating. And you can see that now. Warrior starts to make a huge shift, moving down into the middle of the pack, while Ret still maintains the highest position. But Survival Hunter and Death Knight are in a really good spot. And Assassination Rogue even starts to climb. And Feral Druid's climbing up the ranks. Enhancement starts to climb up the ranks. So even these specs that are lesser represented, as you get higher rating, you can see that your mastery eventually starts to pay off. But when we look at 2700 plus, remember, Ret Paladin is only a low rated noob stomping spec. It's still the number 1 represented spec even at 2700, with Havoc and Unholy, which were all the S tier specializations that I ranked on my tier list. So it's looking pretty consistent, but Enhance out of nowhere starts to really actually shine here. Survival Hunter is still doing decently well. Assassination, Frost Death Knight, and Fury Warrior is one. I don't know who that is, because I'm one of the 2400 Fury Warriors. How many of them are there? 73. I'm in the top 73. And when we finally look at 2800 plus, Havoc, Demon Hunter, and Survival Hunter go head to head. So as melee are concerned, it's very closely balanced. I think Ret is obviously tilted a little bit over. And a little bit of changes for Warriors, maybe a little bit of changes for Subtlety and Outlaw Rogue. and maybe taking hallowed ground and giving that to enhancement shaman, and like melee could be in a really good spot. Even without that, it's still in a really good spot, which is probably why we didn't see any changes this week. They might want to see it play out. Also might be that they consolidate their class changes with PvE and PvP, where it's like, do we need to make changes for PvE? Okay, let's talk that out, and then we'll figure out all the changes at once and then make them. But now let's look at the range DPS and see what's going on. So range DPS at low rating, Boomkin is still at the top, even despite such a significant nerf to its Dream Burst. And I still think pressing, Incarn and Star Search spamming is really good at low rating. That's why I said it would be one of the best for getting to 1800. Surprisingly, Shadow Priest is number 2. I was expecting Shadow Priest to be lower at lower rating, but it's really durable at the moment. It's a lot better with Shadow Crash being instant, so a little bit more new player friendly. Marks, I think, was an obvious one to be here, and Beastmaster with the 4-set bonus is absolutely demolishing. Just these guys do insane amounts of pressure and damage. And Arcane, even at the lowest rating, is still the most popular Arcane Mage spec for play. So again, all 3 Mage specs look very good, competitive. I think range DPS balance is a lot closer than melee DPS at the moment. Demonology is the number 1, Destro is number 2, Ellie, and then Affliction. Fire and Frost, which jumped their numbers up. Frost got probably the most buffs, so a bit surprised not to see it pass. Be interesting to see how this moves as we move higher rating. Devastation looks healthy, and even AUG has like a decent amount of representation, considering it's like not really like a spec that many people play typically. 2100 rating, Boomkin still holds the number 1 position. Mark starts falling behind, and BM is taking over. I think a lot of people want to do experiment, try and get to 2100 with the new 4-set. Shadow still holds strong, and Arcane still holds strong. It's basically the same position. Except that Fire Mage starts to take a bit of a lead over a lot of the other specs, and we don't see Ellie moving. I kind of want to make an Ellie just because of seeing this data and try and run the numbers against it, because I was really anticipating Elemental Shaman to start to shine, and it's not. Like at low rating and now moving to 2400, it's just not. I'm surprised to see so many Boomkins. I'll play my Boomkin again. I think I'm like 2600 on it right now, but this Boomkin is still holding solid here. Beastmastery Hunter number 2. I don't think that's surprising. Arcane is still number 3. I was really expecting other mage specs, but Frost is holding towards the bottom still, even despite that. Shadow still holds a good position. It seems like Shadow's just consistent throughout. Probably a good spec if you're probably not going to get buffed or nerfed, right? Like if you want to pick something that's like safe middle ground, you don't really have a lot of worries about patch changes week to week. It's probably a good go-to. Whereas like BM Hunter set bonus is probably going to get nerfs, and Boomkin, if we continue to see this representation, is it even going to get nerfed again? I think it might be a possibility. When we get to 2700, this is where you see a big drop off, and you see a complete redistribution. Arcane Mage at the highest rankings. So if you dedicate your time to some of these specializations that are harder to play, even with all the nerfs, they're still able to dominate. And BM is really starting to take control of the ranged reigns. Boomkin still holding a good spot at 3. Fire Mage actually popping in the 2700 plus range. Marksman holding some spots, Destro and Affliction, and actually no Demonology. And Shadow still holding good with some representation, at least above 2700. And remember, we're looking at North America and Europe together. So maybe North America and EU would be different. Like EU is Arcane, but NA is BM. Right? So there's a pretty big difference. EU, big brains. US, big Zugs. So Zug specs tend to do better, at least in that region. When we look at 2800 plus, nobody. Not a single player 2800 plus on the range. So 2700 is the highest. And depending on the region, Arcane dominates. So you can see a huge drop off there. I'm curious to see melee DPS actually at 2700 plus as well. So yeah, Havoc is number 1 in EU, but Ret is number 1 in NA. So very curious. And when you bring them together, they get a lot closer. Now, healer balance is one that I was crediting being really good for a while, and I think it might start to be slipping. Resto Shaman has definitely been the most dominant, and this continues to be the case. I think it's probably the best healer if you want to just jump in and spam Riptides and get like 1800 pretty easily on it. Disc is really starting to ride high now. It's the Void Weaver spec seems really good and fun. Like I need to make one because it seems so good. Holy Paladin still holds solid. Holy Priest falling a bit behind, I think, because the Holy Priests are draining out into the Disc Priests. Mistweaver still holds in the top 5, even despite such significant nerfs to it. And I think it's been doing okay. Like, I just played a lobby today with Dilbar, who's probably one of the highest rated shamans. There was a monk, and the monk managed to do really well, even despite there being hunters and a lot of crowd control. So monk was one that I was worried about, but it seems like it's still holding out. Maybe we have to wait and see a little bit longer, and probably depends on the region, because like we said, like Arcane, Mage is really high representation in EU. Resto Druid falling a bit behind, and I think Prez is just still like, it's just not a popular spec unless it's the most powerful, like clearly the most powerful. I don't think that's the case. And yeah, it's just these guys are, the throughput on Shaman is so high. the damage output on disc like this is pretty doing like over 1 million DPS or something. So I do kind of expect these guys to continue pushing higher and higher, and then these guys probably drain over time if the balance remains the same. So something they should probably keep their eyes on, because healer balance is really important. Healer balance determines your Q times. The more viable healers that are equally competitive with each other, the more likely they will play. If one healer is significantly weaker than another, they will likely stop playing entirely, because why would I bother? I'm just going to lose to that guy. He's super OP, right? So healer balance to me is like the underpinning to keeping the ladder alive. So it's very important that we keep an eye on this. When we move to 2100, same story, except that Holy Priest starts to take over a little bit more. Prez actually starts to climb a bit more. I think I said like these guys were like the bottom tier healers. These guys are pretty close, but I think Disc is maybe likely S tier. When 2400 plus Mistweaver actually gets into the number 2 spots, this is what I'm saying. Like, some of these guys might be a bit underrated, and the balance is you get higher rated, ignoring the top end, actually gets a bit closer. Prez jumps up a little bit more. And when we look at 2700 plus, what is that doing up there? Just one guy sweating it out on Prez Evoker, showing that it's possible. You know, all these guys down here, I'm struggling. This guy's like, I'm chilling. Number 1 position, but Disc is starting to take over even at the highest ratings. So mid-level rating might be a bunch of guys trying to abuse Shaman, and maybe Disc is actually going to start to rise up above the rest. Monk still seems good. Druid, unfortunately, is kind of like in last or second to last, though, throughout most of the rankings, and I think it's likely the set bonus. Your set bonus is just not as good as it was last patch, unfortunately. But overall, I think balance is really good. I have a lot of fun when I'm playing, ignoring the frustrations of getting kited on a Fury Warrior most of the time. But now I'm done that. We can move on to something else. Will I tilt even more? We don't know 100%. But I've been having a good time regardless. So definitely think it's worth your time here to play. A lot of fun, new stuff to check out. A lot of classes that had bad set bonuses the whole expansion, like Resto Shaman, have really crazy ones for this one to experiment and play on. There's a good set of classes that are easy to play for some quick results if you're just chasing those temporary rewards, or if you want to excel and pursue mastery, you have options there as well. So a nice little bank. I think it's likely going to be a good season. I would expect to see some changes given that AWC and MDI come up. So if anything starts to really get out of control, I would think that they're going to snip those things before the tournament. I think it's on October 1st is the open bracket for that. So still a couple of weeks away from that. But I'm not surprised to not see any changes. They probably just wanted to see how 4-set bonus on more players would play out. And then, yeah. So maybe you want to go middle of the pack, like I said, and pick a spec like a Shadow Priest that's just like, seems really good overall, and like unlikely that it get nerfed or buffed, but it's just really good. Or you take the high risk and pick something like a BM Hunter right now, likely anticipating some nerfs for it. Or maybe you do the really risky gamble and pick like a Resto Druid and play for the RNG late game that maybe you get buffed at the last second to go from the bottom to the top. But that's my assessment. That's of the analysis so far. I'm having fun, which is the most important part. I hope you guys are having fun. I know the queue times are always a bit rough. That's why I'm hoping they keep their eye on the healer balance, because that's the most important component, ignoring trying to change how ratios work for how many DPS per healer there are for queue times, which would require an entirely new mode, which I don't think that's going to happen. But that's the breakdown here for this week. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys very much for watching as always, and adios.